think we're live, guys. All right, let's
Exciting.
hear. Can everybody see us?
Oh, I'm cropped down into the corner. Yeah, guys, can you just let us know if you can hear us okay? I don't know why I'm down in the corner like that. See if I can make that less weird. Okay, they can hear me. Nice one. Oh, thanks, Theis. He's sorting it out. Now, if the other two can just say hello and someone let me know in the chat that you can hear them both. I'm sure you can, but just to be sure.
All right, guys. Hey, how
Hello.
is everyone doing? So, what are we doing? What's going on? I don't know. I just got this going. So, Lee, what are we doing?
Yeah, okay, well, yeah, Haagh said he wanted to get this up live to create a situation, an environment for getting it done. So to be able to share his process and do a piece from the beginning and go through the motions and communicate some of those steps. But I think it was more initially from the offset about being beholden to some viewers. You know, when you say you're going to do it, then this is a way of forcing yourself to get something done. Some personal work, some non-commission work, as I said, and they said to me, like, can you come and host it for me? So that's why I'm here, just to sort of talk to the guys as they begin working, take anyone's questions. So what we're doing here, we're working with, there's two guys, Martin and Theis, are both extremely proficient VR sculptors. I will ask each of them to give a really quick, brief introduction as to who they are, just so for those that don't know. And then we'll go into sort of like talking about what they want to be doing in the stream today. And I'm going to be looking at the questions on YouTube and taking any questions and comments and insults you want to throw at them at any point, and just talking away and filling the silence a little bit while they work. So Theis, you just want to quickly say tell us who you are and what you're working on, what the stuff that you're allowed to talk about. I know some of it you probably aren't, but just your experience of sculpting and where you are in your career might be very useful for people to hear.
Yeah, so, okay, first of all, I need to full disclaimer say that basically I've been super inspired by a lot of artist streams that are going on. So ZBrush is doing a lot of them, and what I'm doing is I'm doing concept work using Medium all day. And I'm working from home from my own office. So what I usually do to get that sort of a studio feeling, I tend to have these live streams going on while working. And another reason for it was actually the reason why I got into Medium was in the beginning, I think the first year and a half or so, they did a lot of artist live streams. And after seeing first 2 or 3 artist live streams with Medium, that's when I ditched my old Mac setup and wrote Glenn Southern, who was in one of the first streams, and asked him what sort of rig I would need to use to get a lot out of Medium. So that was very inspiring to me and led me down this whole VR sculpting path that is now taking up all my work all the way during the day. And then recently, a collectible style sculptor and illustrator called Mike Thompson, Mike T Artworks. He started something called Stylus League with Danny Williams, and they basically their premise was exactly what I'm copying here, just in a much more professional streamers kind of way. So they're doing it to get their personal work done and also get some information out to people who follow their work and so on. So I just thought it would be a nice thing to do to sort of push myself to get some more portfolio work done, because my portfolio has been standing still for the past few years, where I just focused on client work all the time. So and so that's one of the things. And also I think I'm very much guilty of what I think a lot of people can relate to, where I have like 40 different project folders in my personal folders where I go through the first 15% of the work, do small tests and so on, but then I don't really commit super hard to it like I would if it was a client thing.
Mm-hmm.
So all these projects only ever get to sort of the honeymoon stage of the project, and as soon as that wears off, then I'll just go back to focusing on client stuff and starting something new. So it's to counteract that and just sort of put myself on the spot and get some work done. So that was the primary reason for doing this, and also I just miss you know a lot of the community sense. Like the two of us, we met in London because of a thing that the Medium team put on back then. So stuff like that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think a lot of artists can relate to that. Getting through that exciting spot at the honeymoon period, the first sort of 25-30% of an art project where you're still being surprised by what you're doing, and then you get another new idea, another thing you want to do, and you start a new piece, and then that stays, and you make a new folder, and you end up with all these unfinished things. I know that musicians have exactly the same problem with a whole folder load of intros and outros and not the finished song where it starts, you know, because the motivation comes from discovering things, and sometimes that discovering sort of slows down a little bit, and it's easy when there isn't a client knocking on the door. It's easy to just to like let it hang and lose interest, and it's a real shame. So yeah, I can totally understand why you know you came to the conclusion that doing something like this would help. Great stuff. So you're working on a lot of commercial stuff, but not so much stuff for your own portfolio, is what you were saying. Are you in the same sort of boat, Martin? Do you do this sort of work for clients and stuff like that, and it just helps you get into personal stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it's a similar situation. Like you say with the folders, I have 1,000,001 folders that I open and begin. And say, oh, that's a great idea, and I have 1,001 post-it notes with ideas scrawled and scribbled, and I can't even read my own writing. That's how bad it is. But I have a desk full of post-it notes of ideas that I'm going to bring into the world. But to be honest, I do find that Medium is so fast that an awful lot of those ideas get to a much more finished stage than I've had them before. You know, I feel that Medium is the way forward in terms of getting past that first hump where you go in and you find a good idea and you go, this is going to work. And I find I get there quicker with Medium. And also over the sort of last, I guess probably about 18 months in actual fact, I've just been pushing Medium to see if I can get more finished looking work done. But unfortunately, Theis called me on it, to be honest. He really did. He was like, yeah, but he said, you never finish anything though, do you really? And no, you're right, I don't really. My own personal work is never finished. It never gets finished. I do it so that people, at the moment, I'm not even an illustrator, but I do an awful lot of stuff that will produce a single good illustration out at the end. If I'm really lucky, I can maybe get it from 3 from each side and from front on, so you've got those 3 views and it looks nice. And if you turn it around the back, there is literally a gaping hole. There is nothing there. There's just nothing. And so Theis has kind of brought me in here, and he's holding me, he's pinned me down and said, we're going to finish some work here, okay? And I'm all right with that. I think that's fine. I think we can put in the time and the effort and actually push a thing through to finish. Because, your personal work does go on the slide when all you're doing is professional work all the time. The thing is, a lot of the stuff I do is very bitty. I'll do little pieces. I'm a sculptor. That's all I am. I'm not fancy concept artist like Theis. So people will come to me, usually they have the idea, sometimes they don't, but usually they'll have the idea, they'll have a scribbled little drawing in 2D and I'll make that thing a 3D thing, and oftentimes it comes out across the board. The media that it comes out at the end is super broad. So I do a lot of stuff with traditional sculptors where I'll produce part of the sculpture, like to get them the leg up, or I'll produce a little piece of the sculpture, they're producing a larger part, and I'll be doing just a little bit. Basically, wherever they have bottlenecks, they'll sort of fit me in. So I do quite a bit of that for traditional work, and then I do a fair bit of print work, and then I do an awful lot of stuff I still do modelling. I started out as a 3D generalist, so I still do a lot of stuff that will start as a sculpt and then it will become a model. It tends to be a lot of things for advertising agencies where they just don't in-house, they don't have people to make very specific, very sculptural forms. So I do a lot of that. So in that kind of work I've done a lot of things for big clients, but nothing, never directly, it's always through agencies. So I've got a lot of stuff for like Nike and Disney. I've done a few Disney things. These are the big ones, and I've made some. I can't even think what you call them. Shops, the dummies in shops. I've even done that.
Mannequins.
Mannequins. That's the word. So I've made mannequins. I've made anything that you can imagine that might be a sculpture in any sort of walk of life. I've probably made one at some point. I've never made a tombstone for actual for it. Oh, that's not true. I have made a tribute that was cast in bronze for a lady. So that was and she was dead. So there you go. Even tombstones.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely anything. I love sculpting. I would do it till the cows come home. But now we're going to finish something here for a change. That's our own.
Yeah,
right. So yeah, so you're both working on a character here. I just want to check though, Theis. It looks like I can't see Martin's screen on the YouTube. Is there anything you can check there, guys? You can't see it either, can you? No, of course you can't. It's on YouTube. I can see it on my screen, but not on the feed.
What is it you need?
Can't see Martin's screen. Can only see like a grey box.
Yeah, it's probably because he's not using Medium at the moment, right, Martin?
No, he is.
No, I'm in Medium. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. All right. I have a sneaking suspicion we'll have a lot of fun stuff like that.
It's okay. It's just teething problems. I think.
So currently I'm sharing my screen to Lee.
Yeah.
So that he could see the screen. So what are you seeing, Theis?
Sorry, guys. We're just gonna make sure we can see both screens before we get into the nitty-gritty of it. So are you definitely sharing your screen on Skype, Martin?
Hang on a moment. Skype refusing to come up on that
While we mess around with that, let me just give a broad overview of what we're going to do. So the goal is not to finish something today. I think we're looking at something like a 2-hour stream. But what we want to start out with is to do like a collectible style of sculpt of known comic book characters, because we might get into designing our own stuff on later streams, but for this one, for the first project, we'll want to do something where it's a little bit easier and it's not as taxing for us, since this is the first thing for us to work live like this. So I will be tackling the darkness, and Martin, you will be doing
Spawn.
Yeah. So that's what we will be working on, and then maybe later we will. I don't know right now what we're going to do. If we're going to do continuous streams, or we keep working on it, or if we finish it off screen and do sort of like a catch up stream in the end. We'll have to see.
Okay, Theis, can you see my screen now? Yeah. Okay. Is that coming through the feed then, Lee?
Just seeing the Skype logo, I'm afraid. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Lovely. Perfect. That's a relief. Lovely. Okay, cool. That's a relief. Okay, cool. So you can see what we're looking at here is a mannequin. So here's a mannequin. So both guys are going to be working on the characters, as Theis said. And this is Oculus Medium. Available on the PC-based headset. You will need a decent PC. Probably not going to come to the Quest. Probably not going to come to the Quest soon. Because it uses very intensive voxel. So what you're looking at here is like soft, sort of clay shaped, soft, but inside it is essentially, but inside it is essentially three-dimensional pixels, and it's made up of. Okay, that's just Theis putting his headset on. Cool. Now we can see both. Cool. Now we can see both. So you can see that they've got a mannequin in place as well. Did you make that yourself? Did you make that yourself? Something you reuse? Is this something you reuse as a starting point for characters?
Yeah, that myself. It's based on that myself. It's based on anyone say the man second. I've never heard anyone say the man second. I presume it's Richter, but it's spelled Richter. And that's based on his proportions. And that's based on his ordinary human proportion. 7.5 heads, or 7.5 isn't bright for. Probably isn't bright for. Probably be looking at honest. I'm going to hide his feet because I'm going to hide his feet because I'm lazy. Nobody will know. Nobody will know.
Cool. So you've both got your reference images up. You can see here that you can see here for some reason I don't do, and I really should do more of, and I really surround myself in references. Like this. Theis has got an awful lot of stuff there. We're looking at sort of anatomy images as well as all sorts of different characters. References for muscle references.
Do you want me to do a quick overview of what I have in here? So so basically what I bring in most of the time if I'm doing character work is like I have this very basic base mesh, and for this I'm only really interested in overall proportions because I don't want to. I mean, if I'm doing specific exercise for it, I'll create everything from a single sphere to begin with, but that's not really the point right here. Right now, it's about getting stuff done. But what I don't want from the base mesh is to have it inform my work in any sort of significant way. So I have it in here. It's a free 3D model. It's a very basic model. So I don't want it to be, like I said, informing my work. So it's very low detail and very generic by purpose. So I have that in here, and I have a lot of primitives that I will be drawing from because most of my work is just duplicating primitives and move tooling them into place. Other things I have in here is a general hand, also at pretty low resolution, that I might use later on. And then just like I have a lot of reference images, I also have a 3D Écorché model to sort of block out my muscles when I get once I'm done with the pose. And so my reference photos are also put in here. So I have a few groups here, a little bit more planned out than what I usually do when I'm just working by myself. But I have some sculpting style and general anatomy references in here. I have the classic physique Mr. Olympia in here for when I get into the anatomy work, just to combine that with the sculpting and the 3D Écorché model to see what will these muscle groups actually do when they're posed and put under tension. And then I have sort of a base and pose and style guide here for the sort of vibe that I'm going for. So this is overall what I want to do, something like this, and also kind of the goal for the detail level. And then since I'm doing a collectible style miniature, or not a miniature, collectible style model, I'll also need some sort of base. So I have, since darkness is usually posed looking out from a rooftop, I have a few rooftop references in here, and then I have general comic book references.
Have you opened another program that you've blocked your view? You had a pop-up come up on screen.
Interesting.
Is the sound okay, guys? I can see someone said things were looping.
All right, that should solve it, right? No? It's something happening at you, Martin.
What's happened?
Yeah, you have a window crossing over your medium window.
Oh. Is that it?
Yeah, much better. I don't know why it keeps jumping around like that. Besides, I think you should try and keep all your windows the same and not touch them too much, if possible.
Try not to. I'm at the headset, I'm not seeing it as well.
All right.
Crazy.
Everything good? Looks good, right, Lee?
No, they're getting echoes from me and Martin. Only your audio is good at Theis.
Okay.
Are you listening through headphones, Theis, or are you listening to the feed and then both feeds and then through the second feed again?
I'm just using headphones. You think it's something you need to solve on your end, or?
I think it may be you.
Huh?
I think it may be you. I think somehow our sound's coming through your computer and then your computer's recording again and then sending it out again. Are you running the stream to YouTube? I can see if I can check my sound settings. No, my headphones are off. The only sound I'm running through is the microphone, which is way over on the desk.
Well, it's not on my end. He says Martin is echoing as well, but my voice is normal.
I think you may have to mute the sound coming from me and Lee on the first set and then listen to it on the out or something, I don't know, or mute it on the out. I don't know how that's going to work. Never had to stream like this before through so many machines at once. Ask Glenn, is he not there? He'll know.
Glenn says my feed is good, but something's going on with when the two of you are speaking. Martin, do you think maybe you have audio together with this screen sharing with Lee?
Did you mute your Google Meet tab, Martin?
Yes, muted. I want to bring it back to make sure. Is it coming up on the normal screen?
So, what's going on?
Okay, right. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Is that sorted out?
Guys, can you let us know if the audio issue is solved with Martin?
And testing my audio too. Sorry, guys.
BGA Reed says it's better.
So is it is better solved though, or is better marginally better?
All right, maybe. Yeah, Keith says it's better. Loopbob says Martin is still echoing. Holmes says not looping anymore, but very dome sounding. All right, should we try and go, guys? Do you think the sound is okay for us to proceed, or should we fiddle with it some more?
And I'll sit quiet and be a nice boy anyway, so I'm all right if you don't have to listen to me.
Yeah, Lee, do you see what Glenn just wrote? Like we could try and mute Martin fully for 2 minutes and test. See if that solves anything.
People have been trying to mute me my whole life.
Martin, I'll just try and mute you for a while and see what people think of it. If that solves anything, just to try and isolate it. There. Okay, Lee, can you try and say something, and then people can react if this solves
Testing.
it.
1, 2, 3. Am I getting any echo? We had to do a bit of a workaround just in a few minutes before we went live, so you don't want to know the rigmarole we went through. But so I sound all good, okay. And no, thank you for sticking with us. It's good to see like 10 people telling us it's okay now. It means you stuck with us. That's really good. All right, so I think Theis, if you tell us about your carry on now, and take us through your steps. Put the headset back on, and I think maybe Martin, you'll be able to watch him work, but we might not hear from him very much, because when we do, we will really hear from him.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, stuff like that's always interesting somehow.
Yes, well, everyone's very forgiving, I'm sure. They're used to this sort of thing, and this is our first time doing it with these programs.
All right. Yeah, so yes, so what I usually do is just do a quick split of the character like this. Just manually. Stay away from the cutting tool because it's super taxing on the system. So
okay, I'm just going to butt in there at points, because I know there's people here that I've only just starting to use Medium and things like that. So there is like a cutting tool. I'm surprised it's still in there. I guess there must be some use for it, but I always found it very taxing to use. So rather than use a cut, you're using a different tool to chop it into different things and then put each piece of the character on a different layer, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, at the beginning, like this, I'll usually what I'll do is I'll put it into world camera view like this, because for me the pose is pretty much everything. I want to do a dynamic character, and therefore for me most of the time that I mean, it depends on the job. For example, if I'm doing right now, one of the jobs I'm on is 3D concept art for a video game, and in that case, a lot of the character work starts in a T pose. But for stuff like this, where I really need to get in there and get a very dynamic pose and very dynamic anatomy, there's not much lost in working asymmetrical. So I'll actually establish the pose first, and then everything else will sort of have to be hand sculpted directly in pose, because for me at least, I find that if I start right off for something like this with a T-pose, any anatomy work I do in that will have to be remade anyway, to get proper deformation and stuff like that. So
that makes sense. So you've got you got the pose in your mind already, or do you just experiment here until you see something you like?
Actually, I've been brave or stupid enough to just jump in here. So that's where usually I'll spend a lot of time at this stage. Like you could, for example, I could go with one of the classic poses like this, and then just try out a few poses and see where it leads me. Like the goal is not here for me is not to one-to-one copy one of the comic images, but if I'm not sure where to go, I can always start from there and then just see where it takes me. And I'll just go through the character and break it up as I need it. And using the world view is a good way to do it, because that will allow me to sort of check the pose from within camera all the time. And also, since you don't have like a silhouette camera view in Medium, you can sort of use this to work around that.
We haven't got Martin's feed now; it's just frozen. But we won't worry about it now. We'll just carry on here because it makes more sense just to carry on watching something that's working.
All right. I apologize, guys. We are very new to streaming.
Yeah, I think what we do next time is I will sort of run the stream if we do this sort of setup again, so that I can just make sure, and you can put your headsets on and you won't have to worry about anything else. Okay, yeah, I see. It makes sense to make the neck a separate piece as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the attitude of the model right now. So also, I won't really, at this point, I don't care about him being broken up like this. It's all about, trying to capture the general sense of it.
What other things do you do when you're setting up your canvas to begin with? Is there any tips you might have for sort of resolution or the environment or anything like that? Have you got preferences?
Sure. I mean, overall, I like the values to be pretty much middle of the road grayscale. So I'll set up all my layers here to have a nice middle of the road gray when they're hit by lights. And as you can see here, I can rotate around the lights. But what I'm looking for is a nice basic mid-tone gray and a lighting setup. Right now I have two lights to give the right perception of the forms, but also I don't want anything super bright or super dark, because like I said, I'm in here pretty much all day when working. I'm in VR like this, so I need something that's very relaxing for the eyes.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
Also, I mean, the perception of the form is incredibly important, and I get that from using like a very neutral light setup like this together with the camera view to be able to perceive the forms.
Now you can see here that what you can do, you can use any shape as so what you can do is you can create your own custom brushes in Medium, so they can be any shape you like. As you can see, you can start off with a sphere or a cube as two simple examples, primitive brushes, and they can obviously with one click can become an eraser, and you can use that to cut into shapes and carve away at the clay or to add to it. You can also do things if you really wanted to. You could take this whole mannequin and turn that into a brush. So you can do some really clever things with custom brushes. We saw a second ago he used a cube as an eraser to sort of chop away sections. So would you start with a mannequin like this, even if you were going to do like, I don't know, like an ogre or something like that? Would you still start with a basic human proportions and then really distort afterwards?
I mean, it depends. Let's say I wanted to like, if we are creating an ogre, then there are so many ways to go about it. So right now I have a very specific goal in that the design of darkness is already a given, and I don't want to stray. Like, my goal here is not to stray very far from it and give it a very significant tweak to that. But if I'm creating something new, I might start like this, and just from a simple sphere, just create something like the overall proportions of the creature, and maybe put in a jawline like this, and just go from there.
Cool. If you just look down slightly so that what you're working on is in the middle of your view, that will be helpful. Yeah, that's cool. Great.
Stuff like this, and start to put in cheekbones. And what I'll do is I'll reuse forms a lot, because I don't want to, I want to keep things fast. If creating something new like this, I want to concentrate about that, and not about making everything perfect at that specific time. But also, if the job is something like this where I know where I'm going, I still want to be fast, because then I'll just want to spend my time on doing a lot of tests and different poses and stuff. So I mean, I think that's what VR is doing so well, is helping you not spend so much time on menus and software things, but much more on what you're actually creating. So I mean, stuff like that.
Nice. Keith's just asked, is that the old CV1 headset?
Come again?
Your headset, is that the old CV1 Oculus?
Yeah, it's my third CV1 actually.
Dedication.
I go through them. I mean, I spend a lot of hours in here, so the touch controllers and the headset, they do go out after a while. Yeah, and
And yeah, your end goal for this piece is an image, a render. Is that right? Rather than a 3D print or anything like that.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it could be both, but since this is portfolio work that I'm doing, so I'll probably just focus on getting some nice beauty renders from it, because prepping it for 3D print is a whole thing in itself, and that's not really the goal here. I mean, there are so many technical things you have to get into, cutting up the character and keying it, or it could even be sculpting it in a specific way that would help it be easier to print and so on. But I really don't want to focus on that. I want to. My focus is to get as beautiful and dynamic a character as possible. Yeah, but I mean, it's. At this point, I would just keep doing what I'm doing here, and then try out different poses, different ways to go. So I'll put a duplicate of this guy up here. And leave him for later, try out something else.
Glenn's saying he picked up a headset at the airport for you.
Yeah, he did.
Legend.
Yeah, it was just around when they stopped producing the CV1, and I really need a headset with physical IPD adjustment to be able to work comfortably in it, and I was in total panic mode. And then I saw Glenn was picking up. He saw an offer in an airport, and he was nice enough to help me out with one. But I had to go to get even a third one after that. So.
Yeah, I gave mine my one away to a school near me, and none of the headsets since have been quite as light and comfortable.
No, and it's really about comfort. I mean, if you're spending a lot of time in there.
Yeah, I've been trying to use the Quest 2 plugged into the PC, but it's too. I mean, it's usable, but I used to be able to go hours before I even really worried about anything. Now it's like half an hour, and I want to take it off.
Okay. Well,
it's much better than it was with the first Quest, but it's just weighty at the front. It's just not as nice.
I'm really hoping it will work for me, because my current set is slowly on its way out. Like, you'll lose precision on the hand controllers. Usually that's the first thing that goes, and then the headset will follow. But I mean, I don't know. I have no idea how many hours I've spent in each headset, but it's a lot. Yeah, but I don't know if maybe we should mix it up a bit, because since the plan was to have Martin speaking in here as well, it would have been a little easier because I can spend a lot of time doing this. It's a part of the process that I really love, the posing of it, but it's also something that I really need to spend a lot of time on if I'm to get a really nice piece out in the end, because I mean, I can do as much rendering of anatomy details as I want, but if the base pose is not really there, then the rest of it doesn't matter as much. But I mean, we could be here for a while before I settle on a pose.
Yeah, it's a shame we can't see Martin. I can see him working away on my screen, and he's using a slightly different process, like building up muscles over the skeleton. The pose is looking cool, but yeah, I think what's happened is because we had that sort of we sort of hacked together a bit of a solution before we went live. Yeah. He was in 2 calls, and he was hearing his own call back. That's what was happening. Yeah. So that's where the feedback loop was coming from. But the visuals are frozen as well. It's yeah, I can see he's using similar processes to sort of like chop up into, he's working on the hand now and breaking the fingers and things like that. But and working on the pose.
It's like radio, Lee. You're now a radio DJ. They can't even hear me. I'm like the voice of your conscience now.
We can still hear you, man.
Yeah, sorry.
That's not so bad. That's a start.
Sorry, I laughed with mute on.
I'm the voice of all of your conscience then. That's your guilt. That poor guy turns up and sculpts and nobody sees.
So how long has it been since you've been inside Medium, Lee?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't used Medium since we did the Facebook thing.
But you're using a lot of Gravity Sketch, right?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot with Gravity Sketch, and I honestly don't know why I haven't. I think I was embarrassed about my performance with Medium, and it scared me a little bit, if I'm honest. And I've got to patch up my relationship with it. I think it intimidates me, and I need to jump. I really, really do, because there's only so many stringy sort of tubular things I can make in Gravity Sketch. I just really enjoy the process. I use it in a very unusual and weird way as well. It's definitely not the way it's supposed to be used. But
I'm not sure there is a way it's supposed to be used.
No, I know, but I build volume using the brush, using the pipe tool. That's how I build my volumes up. And I'm working on something now that's going to be printed and chrome plated.
Nice.
And carry into Mexico with me. It's a long story, but I'm watching it now. But this is inspiring me, and it's really important to learn from, learn from some of the experts, and I've definitely got to give it some time and get back into it, because I absolutely love the tool still. I mean, but when we did the Facebook thing, I'd only been playing with I hadn't done any 3D 2 months before that. I'd only just started looking at 3D, so it was very, very early on, and I still haven't done much outside of the headset. I just love that process so much. But I like the free form. I do it quickly. I never have images. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's just like scribbling.
Yeah.
It's not as focused.
Yeah, and you can do so much bigger scale stuff in Gravity Sketch because it's so light on systems, right? Or in resources, I mean.
Yeah, Gravity Sketch is available standalone on the Quest.
Yeah.
So it must be.
Yeah.
I just love the splines in Gravity Sketch. I wish that Medium had something that could touch those splines. They're amazing. And I like the loft surface as well. I think it's really nice, being able to use 2 hands to draw out a flowing surface. It's amazing. Man, people are missing out on my fun with the move tool. Honestly, that's what Medium's all about for me. I don't think Medium exists without the move tool. It's just a really poor quality ZBrush without the move tool. As soon as the move tool's in, it's like, wow, this is a game changer. What it can do with the move tool is extraordinary. The fact that you can translate a thing in space. You can rotate it in space and you can scale it, and that's all in one move. And then you can hold the piece itself, the actual world essentially, and at the same time as moving your hand, you can then move the world at the same time, which gives you even more scope, for enormous sweeps and things. I mean, I would like it if it had control points of some description in there as well, but you can't have everything. Just the power of being able to have 6, well, in fact, it's more than 6 degrees of freedom in one move. It's extraordinary. I mean, I love it. I really do. I gave up ZBrush for medium. I didn't give up ZBrush. Disclaimer.
Yeah, it was the move tool that completely blew my mind when I first saw it. That's exactly what we needed. They haven't. I mean, I don't. Has it changed much since?
No, I mean,
God. Theis, you're going to have to look at the feed, I'm afraid.
okay.
If that's all right, just because yours is covered now. I think it's because I tried to share my screen so that we could see Martin's, and now it's blocked yours. And me. I'm like in a letterbox at the bottom.
And it didn't show me at all then, did it?
It did, kind of. No, we can see the bottom of it. There we go.
All right.
Nice one. Thank you.
No, I mean, they put in an elastic mode for the move tool that will sort of do like this. So it will turn into bubble gum when you stretch it like that, whereas the old way of moving is just more like grabbing the tool and manipulating the shape in a more linear fashion.
Yeah, I find the elastic one really, really good for muscles and things, though, because it maintains its volume. So as you move it, it's a bit more, there's a bit more physics involved in it. So it's really good with cloth and muscles, and just when you're trying to bunch things up and make it look like there's more weight on it, it's far easier to use the elastic to actually kind of drag things. And if you put the strength down as well when you're using it, you actually, you feel that resistance, and I find that really visceral. I think that's the whole thing about VR and why it is better than 2D sculpting on computers. It's just that it's like an experience. You're actually experiencing the sculpt, whereas on 2D you're drawing it. That's not the same. It's just not the same.
No.
Obviously, it's not. I mean, it's not traditional. You're not getting your hands dirty or anything, but there's a presence, and I think that's the thing that really blew me away when I actually bought VR just for Medium. I saw a demo of Medium, and it wasn't even a big demo. It was literally one of the video demos. Just showing. It wasn't like an artist spotlight or anything. It was nothing like groundbreaking, or it wasn't an amazing piece of art that they showed. They just showed the engine running, and they sprayed out some clay, and then they moved some stuff, and I went out and I put down 400 quid straight like that and bought the CV1 just because I saw that and I needed it in my life. There was no it didn't broach any argument. I just needed it. As soon as I saw it, I thought, that's it. That's the answer. And it was for Medium. I bought it for Medium, but then as soon as I got into actual VR and played some games and things, and that the presence of actually being in the space, and you can't explain it. You can't show. The only way that they can see it is to put on that headset, turn their head, and be in that world. And when you do that with your sculpture, and you can work it as if it's a miniature, you can scroll all the way down, and then you can zoom it all the way up, and it's bigger than a house. And you can look at your sculpture bigger than a house. And people don't understand the sort of the presence and the scale of VR until they put the headset on, because you can't show it on a 2D screen. You just can't show it. You can't feel that. And that's what it is. You feel it in your guts. It's the fact that I'm sharing space with this sculpture, and it's extraordinary. I think anybody who you don't want to jinx that sort of thing. You don't want to sound like that guy, but any professional digital sculptor that gets into 3D and gets a little bit of experience with it is going to realise that VR is the future.
Yeah.
Because it can't not be, because it's so much. It kicks 2D into the dirt. It kicks it. The only thing that 2D can do just now is it can do it portable on iPads and things, and that's why Nomad is absolutely cleaning up, because obviously people can just play straight away. They just take out their iPad and they draw on it. But for actual sculpting in VR, whatever they do and however they bring the tools, the tool set that we're used to into VR, it's going to be the future. There's no, I can't see any other way around it. It's because it changes it so significantly. You feel it in your guts. You're sculpting and it's there and it's solid and it's a thing. It's not just an image on a screen.
Absolutely. So, you've got a relationship with it, as you say. It's tangible, isn't it?
That's a great relationship. That's exactly what it's like. You're there. You're feeling that there's a dialogue going on between you and this thing, this actual object. It's not a digital thing anymore. It's so strange. And again, it's, even though it is a digital, you are experiencing the space with this other. It's even stranger in Medium when there's another person in the space too. They haven't fixed it yet. Obviously, it doesn't work right.
No.
But having someone sit there with you and be able to manipulate and talk to someone about this thing, and you're having that shared experience with this sculpture, it's something else. It really is. It's something else. That sounds like a pitch here, don't I?
Well, no, but it is. I think we've all gone through that, and I made a living out of going around just talking to university students and kids in schools and kids in hospitals, just going, you have to do this, you have to experience this because it is amazing. And you start with tilt brush, obviously, with kids and things like that, but it's the same sort of thing. It's a sense of being in a space with a real thing, a tangible thing. Yeah. And you know, we're very, very close to it being like a full sort of pipeline through to, you know, finished products. I think I would hazard a guess that Medium is still used for like the beginning and for the bashing out ideas and all that sort of stuff. And obviously guys like you and you two and Glenn and various others do put out like really high end, like professional looking and sort of renders and stuff like that. But when it comes to sort of movies and things and high end games and things like that, you could probably do a lot of finishing off on the desktop software. But it's only a matter of time before we're, you know, working with textures, working with UVs, working with, you know, all sorts of other things and doing all this in VR. It would, I mean, I'm surprised we're not, maybe I'm missing it, but I'm surprised we're not seeing much of that yet. I guess it's just quite hard to do. So someone asked earlier, would you get the same sort of details out of Medium than you would out of Gravity Sketch? Now, I think you could probably say you get a higher level of detail out of Medium with a decent PC. Definitely, they are very, very different programs, but and different amounts of sort of texturing and sort of bump maps and things like that are needed outside of the headset, depending on which program you use. But I guess you guys would probably agree that when it comes to detail, if you want to use detail, if you want hair and skin and pop marks and chainmail and things like that, then you're going to use Medium for that sort of thing, probably.
Yeah, I mean, right now there are definitely limits to what is meaningful to do in Medium, because it gets heavy very quickly. So I mean, some of the stuff that you can do in Gravity Sketch is very, very hard or nigh on impossible to do in Medium, scale wise at least. I mean, I've seen a lot of concept artists adapt Gravity Sketch into their workflow, especially for environments and hard surface stuff. But I mean, for me at least, it's just the reason why I love Medium so much is you don't have to plan ahead. I mean, if I want a hole somewhere, I'll just punch it, or I'll take the move tool and just punch a hole in stuff with my hands. Whereas Gravity Sketch is really cool for the scale it lets you play with, because the scene you create in there, it will, you know, you will have to do a lot to bring down a regular decent powered system. But for me at least, but I think I don't really enjoy going into the whole this software is better than this talk.
No.
Because I think a lot of it has to do with what sort of work you enjoy doing, but also how your brain is wired.
Of course, yeah.
At least for now, I think once once we see the next generations of creative apps in VR, maybe that will change, because a lot of the limitations might be lifted, or made, disappeared through breakthroughs in the way the software is coded and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I use Medium for pretty much everything, because it's the one software that lets me not worry about the software and just worry about how to make my things look the way I want them to. And that's, if that's Photoshop for you and digital painting, or if it's markers and stuff like that, or if it's NURBS modeling or more traditional 3D modeling or whatever. It's just, at the end of the day, it's just about what clicks with the way you think, and what sort of software package you feel at home in.
Martin Nebelong's popped in, says hello.
Hey, Martin.
Oh, hello. Legend.
Talking about what software makes you free and able to do what you want, right? Like Martin's doing really cool stuff in Dreams, whereas I tried that as well, but just I felt I had to plan ahead using that.
Probably until you know it. I mean, Dreams it's fascinating seeing what Martin does with Dreams.
Absolutely.
I played with it a little bit, but I didn't have the move controllers, so it was very clunky. And I'd come back with move controllers and never did. But I've still got the PS4 downstairs and been wanting to get into that. I saw that a few people are using it to create little cinematic shorts and selling them as NFTs now, and doing really well out of it. But I think that's another one on the list.
Yeah.
It's very, very powerful, very clever.
I mean, whenever I watch it, and watching Martin stuff as well, it sounds weird when you're talking about Martin and it's not me. But yeah, watching Martin stuff, the thing that really gets me constantly about Dreams is just how integrated everything is. I mean, just the fact that you've got the lighting and all the textures, and in fact, then you've also got gameplay on top of that. Just the fact that it begins at the very basis where it's just an empty space, and then it can build all the way right up to the top to a finished article, including, films and games. It's extraordinary. I mean, I think that kind of thing at that level of integration is where probably all this stuff's going to go, and it's going to be in VR. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Why would you do anything three-dimensional on a 2D screen when you don't have to?
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, as much as we complain about how clunky VR headsets are and things, the fact that so many people are still willing to put the time and effort in when it's still at an infantile stage, compared to how long computers have been around, that in itself is a testament to how impressive it is.
Exactly. Yeah, Keith has just said I get sick of sitting with a TV on my face. It's like, but we still put it back on, don't we?
Yeah.
I when I'm building up to a big drop and I've got a bunch of pieces to do, and I'm generally leave everything to the last minute, I'll spend like 10 hours a day with a Quest now, with the weight, and I can feel it. I'm just like up the back of my neck a little bit at the end of the day, and that's not a good thing. That definitely, I'm looking forward to being lighter. That's for sure.
Yeah, looking forward to them just being glasses that you can put on. That was one thing that really got me, in actual fact, with the whole VR. The fact that I wear glasses, they look like my bottoms, if anyone wants to know. I'm that guy that got bullied in school for wearing milk bottles, because that's exactly how thick they are. But the thing that completely shocked me when I put the headset on, the headset's right at your face, obviously. You presume you could take your glasses off and it's right there at your face, but the lensing inside the box means that you actually still have to use your eyes, essentially as if you were looking at a distance. So I can't wear it without my glasses on, and that just causes it's a really difficult thing. Glasses wearers have got a real terrible time wearing them, because in fact, at the moment I have a terrible headache for the last 2 weeks because my actual glasses, the ones with the proper prescription, broke on me, so I'm wearing my older prescription. And it's not the fact that the prescription's older that's causing the problem. The glasses are bigger, so they kind of push at the side of my face and they push on the back of my ears just because it's sitting there. It's pushing constantly on my face. So yeah, I've just got a real terrible headache for the last 2 weeks. I need to go to the optician.
So you must have looked into prescription lenses in the headset, though. You know, you can pop them out and replace them with prescription lenses and some
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember how I said it's like I've got milk bottles on my eyes?
Okay, they just don't have those lenses.
I mean, if you're like a billionaire, maybe, but yeah, as it is, there's just it's just too expensive when your eyesight gets as bad as mine. It gets super expensive to get anything that's custom made. In fact, even just going to the ordinary, like every so often, I would go to the opticians, and people, like if it's a new optician, they'll go. It's like, you know, I'm a couple of notches off being registered blind. That's it.
Okay.
It's that close. It's not quite, but yeah, it's pretty bad. It becomes very expensive as a hobby site. You know, just being able to see things as a hobby can become very expensive. You know, one day I'll just gladly and gently go blind. You know, become a blind artist of some sort. I'll need to get into clay for that, obviously.
I'd say those are some decent sculpts for a blind man, eh?
What's that?
Yeah, decent sculpts for a blind man.
No, well, thank you.
That's how good it is. He's got haptic gloves as well. He's just feeling his way around the boxes.
Now you're talking.
We'll get there.
Fingers crossed. Apologies for me just orbling on.
No, it's good. It's good. Yeah, no, we need that. We can't see you, so it's good to see
you.
Just got the frozen image still, I'm afraid. But Theis is really coming along.
You know, the funny thing, I can't see Theis either. That's part of it. So odd. We had this working the last time, guys.
He's just been putting milk bottles over the eyes on his. Yeah, someone's recommended a strap for the Quest. Thanks, Claire. I'll check out that Halo strap. I haven't done that. Kevin Ang is here. BRROG. Sorry if you can hear my dog howling. There's someone like blowing a whistle across the river behind the house. It's driving the dog mental. It was happening just before I get on the call. So if you hear like howling, that's because there's some creep with a whistle. So you're liking this pose then, Theis? I can see you've got them.
No,
you look like a prowler.
Not really. I mean, it's just this is the part that's not necessarily super stream friendly, because this is kind of what we talked about before, where about typical traps I fall into when working on my own stuff is that I would just go in and maybe just pick this guy and start throwing muscles on him and start refining this one, just because it's, for me in medium, it's so fun to do stuff like this and start to flesh out the anatomy and get the pose going. But the problem is that's when, a couple of hours in, when it's starting to take more shape, then it's just all of a sudden you're just not feeling it. So one of the things I really want to do with now that I'm getting back to doing more portfolio work again is to really try and get the pose right. So if I'm not super ecstatic about it now, I'm pretty sure once the honeymoon phase is over and once I'm done working my way through secondary and tertiary forms, I'll start really disliking it. And so it's really important for me to not skip ahead too fast and not leave this stage too early.
So is there something that sort of like entices you to sort of rush ahead sometimes? Is it because you specifically enjoy like adding the clothing or anything like that state, like the next stage?
I think that's one thing for sure, but another one is that I'm just not very. I mean, I can be patient, but I can also be very impatient, and you. At least for me, I feel like you get a boost from going places with what you're working on, and it's actually pretty hard, especially when for some reason for me when there's not a client and there's not some you're not in this do or die mode for some reason, then it I don't know what it is. It's just I'm more confident when I'm in that do or die mode, and I'm much more capable of making decisions and moving things forward. But when I'm working on my own stuff, it's everything just slows down a bit. One thing is also absolutely that I'm whenever I'm talking at the same time, or if I'm put on the spot like right now, it will affect my speed dramatically in a bad way. But in general, I feel like, for example, the Predator sculpt I did as a warm up to this stream, for that one I really took my time. But then again, even on that one, I did not spend the time I needed in this posing phase, and it's just too bad, really, because no matter what you do after this stage, it will so much will be dictated and chosen at this stage. So I really need to try and force myself to not rush it too much.
That's good advice.
Yeah, spend more time hating it now so that you don't hate it later.
Yeah, something like that. For example, right now, it's like, what is he even doing here? I mean, he's doing something like this on the references, but does it actually make sense in this pose? Like, he's just sitting on top of a roof, clawing his hand. So I need to.
He's being dramatic.
Yeah, he's just being dramatic. Goddamn it!
Somebody somewhere's got a zoom lens on me right now, and I look good.
Yeah, but right now, for example, at this angle, I mean, instead of solving it, I could just talk to you about all the things that are wrong with it. So from my point of view, for example, I have a strong tangent on this leg that creates a tangent to the spine or the back of the torso, and I don't want stuff like that. So he needs to either do something like this or do something like that, but that's maybe a bit too much Spider-Man, but you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's a big puzzle, and if I don't complete that puzzle, it will keep haunting me. So stuff like that, and the arm and the hand is doing the same thing, and that's one of the reasons why I sculpt and pose a lot from within the camera, because if we go into the normal sculpting view that I'm seeing, then I mean, you could be like here one moment and then the next moment here, and it's if you do that, it's so easy to miss things. So
right. So you're seeing a display of your camera as well, so that you can keep that.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, position. I want before I move away from the posing phase, I want the pose to work from all around the character, full 360 degrees. But at least, if I'm going to show the back of it, I mean, if I'm only showing like the money shot, then I could just do something that works from that particular angle. But still, I mean, it has to work 100% from that angle, and then I'll probably move the camera at a later stage to make sure it works from other angles as well.
Martin's asked, Do you ever do a quick gestural sketch of the whole character to establish the pose beforehand, before breaking into body parts?
Yeah, absolutely. But usually, if I do that with a pencil or a marker, physical marker on paper, and just pull in a reference photo for that. I mean, you could absolutely start sketching loose stuff like this.
Yeah,
but,
I was going to say you could do it in 3D,
but I
couldn't you? But I guess if you...
I don't do that too much, because that's the one thing where being in 3D doesn't help me. So either I'll do it like this and do it very meticulously, or I'll do it with pen and paper.
It's funny. I find myself sometimes if I'm struggling with a particular part of a thing, I will just do a quick sketch, you know, and I mean, like, I'll just take an extra layer and I'll just very quickly like scribble things in. I used to draw a lot. I've got very out of the habit of it, but I had like a real woolly, I'll call it a style for lack of an actual word to describe how poor it was. But it was like wool, you know. I would scribble and scribble and scribble, and somewhere in that mess of lines, I could see the line that I needed, you know. So it was like, and I find that sometimes if I'm really struggling, and it does tend to be, it's only if I'm really struggling in medium, I'll do that. I'll just take a really low, just a clay, like with the smallest tool tip, and I'll actually just draw, because unfortunately I do feel that the clay tool and the smoothness of it just isn't there. I wish that they would get a spline engine in there to actually tidy up your lines as you draw them, and maybe even allow you to change them. I guess you can do it a bit with the elastic. Actually, you can draw them in, and as long as it's high enough res, you can use the elastic to then move them. But yeah, I'll just scribble in the shape of things. Like, I know I'm going to do a fair bit of it here with this spawn that nobody can see. I'm going to do all sorts of sketches to see what does and doesn't work with this cape, because obviously with Spawn he can make the cape any shape he wants, which is just an excuse for the artist to draw whatever the hell they want and not learn how to draw a cape. Right. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just find a lot of shapes. Like, I found a number of Spawn covers mainly and other sort of key art pieces, and obviously his cape's different in every single one, just because that's the whole thing, isn't it? So I'm going to just take bits that I like from some and bits that I like from others and make my own cape to fit this particular one. The key piece of art that I'm taking the main thing from is actually just a 3/4, so it cuts off, well, in actual fact it cuts off into shadow at its waist, but it does go a little bit further down than that. So I'm going to have to invent all of that below there. And it also cuts off at the back end of his elbow on one side, which means you can't see the cape anywhere apart from above his shoulders. So I'm going to have to invent that cape. So I'm going to find myself doing an awful lot of little sketches of what does and doesn't work in the 3D space around him. And yeah, I think the fastest way to do that is just to actually scribble them in, you know, because it's that way that if you see something that you like in a scribble, then you can kind of go, okay, I can put a bit more time into that scribble, that kind of works, or it doesn't, you know. And I think the VR is really good for that sort of thing, you know, especially with the move tools and things in medium as well. You can scribble it in and then grab it and actually pull it. If it's not quite right, then, you know, you've got that full freedom to actually just address and then put curvature back in where it's missing and things like that. So yeah, I do find that oftentimes I'll block things in a really hideous way, and you have to apologise to clients and things every so often, where you'll say, I know it looks terrible, but try to look beyond that. I mean, I think anybody who's ever worked with clients knows that you're saying that more often than not. At these early stages, this will look terrible, you know.
Then they instantly comment on something that's like quite clearly nothing like the final thing, and they're looking at the wrong thing right now. A lot of clients aren't quite so imaginative as the artists they employ.
No, that's true. I was just going to say, when obviously didn't want to interrupt because Theis was chatting, and it's always good stuff to hear from this man. He was saying about the fact that and I've totally lost my thread. That's terrible, isn't it? Here's me butting in to have precisely nothing to say. Oh,
No, it'll come back to you. It'll come back to you.
Yeah, after I interrupt. That's hilarious, right?
Yeah,
I'll shut up and disappear again.
Kevin said the sketching and gravity sketches was favourite starting point. Yeah, I really enjoy that. That's what gravity sketch does really nicely.
Yes.
It's very satisfying, and then of course you can tweak it afterwards. So I do find that whole process extremely satisfying, and I can see how it is very different when you're using the clay in Medium. What you really want is them to just add that one tool so that it's there as well. Because theoretically, you could sketch it and then export it and then import it into Medium. Because I don't know if everyone in the chat knows this, but you can import models into Medium and then turn them into clay, which is extremely useful.
It is. I've done it with a few gravity sketch things. The main problem, and it's not really a problem, it's just I find jumping between too many programs when you're trying to get into a flow, it can just break that flow so easily. So sometimes if it's the very early stages, then I guess it's fine. But if you get that flow and you really start feeling it, and then you're in the wrong program, I just find that really, it can take the wind out your sails.
Yes, definitely.
So in some ways, it's getting the flow with a non-ideal tool that's going to lead you to the rest of the ideal tools. Sometimes, you just don't bother going out into those other programs as much as you know that they might be able to do the job slightly better, slightly quicker. The switching off and switching on and moving the headset and all the rest of it and exporting and importing, it just breaks that flow. So, yeah, you just don't,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just don't. It's just not worth it.
I do wish there was better integration like that remained in the VR headset so that you could actually just move files between things without any of that rigmarole. It's not really going to happen anytime soon, I don't think.
Claire's just asked about the stroke tool. Yeah, it's you can have it so that it simplifies, what's the word? It smooths out the brush stroke for you. If you want it to, there's like 4 stages of smoothing. So yeah, it can be really good for like creating nice smooth arcs and nice lines. And it is very instant. It's very instantaneous as well. And then you can sort of reach in and grab and tweak and sort of like tidy it up afterwards. So it's very, very good actually trying to sketch in 3D early on when you're first trying to use these tools, because at first you've got to wrap your head around what it is to draw in 3D, which is takes everyone a little bit of time to wrap their head around, and then very quickly you realize how powerful it can be. Yeah, it filters the input, exactly. Yeah, it smooths it out.
Yeah, it's like Lazy Mouse, only in 3D.
Yeah.
It's funny, I guess it's a bit like the smooth even just in Photoshop, which I think has got better recently, much better.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have that little plugin that you got for Photoshop that gives you a smoother mouse, but the most recent updates, they've fixed it after 400 years or whatever.
Yeah.
I like being this disembodied voice. There's no pressure on me. Everybody's looking at Theis' stuff apart from me. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so we definitely got to figure that out. It's frustrating, but we can still see. Yeah, you could be doing anything. You could be playing solitaire.
Minesweeper.
Yeah.
As long as I'm not singing it, you'll be all right.
Got a question for you, Martin. Do you think you'll make bodies like you made heads in Medium?
Oh, do you mean the ones for sale?
I guess. Yeah.
I have some sitting. I have a real it's imposter syndrome. So yeah, the fact that people are really liking those heads it's really it feels nice that people appreciate the stuff you're doing. I have somebody sitting waiting. I don't like them enough yet to actually ask anybody to pay for them, because I don't think they're good enough yet. I'm a real sucker for making stuff and then not actually bringing it to market or whatever, because I just you know yourself. It's difficult to I think part of it's to do with that whole honeymoon period that Theis was talking about. You love a thing, you're like, oh, that's a great idea, and then you put your heart and soul into it, and then somewhere, 50% down the line, if you're lucky, 35% down if you're not, you sort of run out of steam. So yeah, I have bodies that are almost ready to go, but I've lost faith in them. I feel I'm getting a bit more confident with actually asking people to purchase things that I've made along the lines. So there's a few things that I've released that I didn't think were quite ready, but people have bought them and then have improved them as they've gone along. And I think that's probably what I'll do. So yeah, the bodies. Long story short, there will be bodies. The mannequins, a bit like the one I started with. In fact, a bit like the one I'll end up with at the end of this stream. If at some point you can actually show people my screen somehow. I don't know if that's gonna. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, we can try. So when you say you're selling these things, are they 3D assets or are these prints or?
No, they're assets. They're medium. The faces, it's a male face and a female face, and they're broken up. Basically, it's building them from sort of first principles almost. They're like écorché, except they're not écorché. It's much more. It's when you make faces. In fact, I saw. I think I did this. I'm going to start one sentence and then end on a different one. I saw someone talking about sculpting bodies and the fact that people get really into sort of sculpting écorché instead of sculpting bodies. It was Chris Bull just recently. He released an anatomy for not beginning sculptors, but people who wanted to know anatomy better and basically avoid pitfalls in anatomy. And what he was saying is when you learn the muscles, you're only learning one part. It's like if you look at an ordinary human, their fat, the percentage of fat in their body is an enormous percentage. And if you're not learning where fat is on a body, then you're missing out that huge percentage of the body. So learning to sculpt the muscles just doesn't cut it. Mm-hmm. So these faces, they're like écorchés, but basically what they are is they're all the primary forms and volumes on a face, including fairly simplified ears, to be honest. And that's what they are. It's so that people can take them. It's the same one I use in all my own stuff. I use it in all my own work, and I use it in professional work as well if there's faces involved. And you just load it into Medium. They're Medium files, and you just grab the pieces, and you just, basically it's all done with the Move tool. You just monkey it into, you just monkey it around to get what you want. You push all the primary forms until it reflects that new face. And obviously, it's that way that if you start, like in ZBrush or that, everybody starts from a base mesh. If they're doing professional work, and probably they're given the base mesh that they're going to work from. When I started learning in ZBrush, I very quickly realised that starting from a sphere every time is a good thing to start from when you're beginning. But there's a set number of actions that you do every single time to that sphere to get it to the shape. In fact, again, I can't share my screen, but basically to get a sphere into this shape that I've got here on top of my very basic skeletal mannequin, it takes you 5 minutes work. That's 5 minutes every day. That's 5 minutes every face. Remove that, So, but then obviously to the state where if you concentrate on all the volumes of the face, there's a lot of them. There's probably in the little mannequins that I'm selling, there's probably about 25 individual pieces, maybe even more, because I guess you've got mirror image. But if you have to make every single one of them for every face that you make, then you're wasting all that time. When if you start with one that's fairly basic proportions, people were like, people were saying, I said, oh, this is a basic face. You can start and make anyone. This is a generic face, and some folk were saying, yeah, but it's a bit too stylish to be a generic face. And I don't know whether to take that as a compliment or not. It initially wasn't meant as a compliment, I don't think. But I took it as one. It's like, well, you don't see your own style. So it's nice for somebody to say a thing that you've made as stylish. But obviously, when you make that face every single time and you start from that base mesh, it's going to look a bit like my work if you don't change enough. Mm-hmm. But then when I'm using it in my work, it is my work. So it's fine that I've already skipped that. It's I think probably all in to make a face from nothing to where the base mesh is, it's probably going to take you about an hour and a half just to put the volumes in, and then you'd need to refine them. So obviously starting from scratch, that's a lot of work for every face. So I just don't, and I thought there's a lot of people out there who, if they want to see these faces and how a face is made, then, buy that, look at it, and then adapt it, make your own, make one just like it, only not like it, and then it's yours and you can start from there. Whenever I'm teaching anybody to sculpt, I always say to them, that for every sculpture you make, there should be a focus for that sculpt. So if you're wanting to make likenesses, then you don't want to have to do all the volumes of the face every time, because, well, you're trying to make a likeness. Or if you're trying to like, Theis has said to me, look, stop making faces, McGhee, you're boring me. That's what he said. He might have said it much nicer, but it was essentially what he said. He said he wants to see me do some dynamic bodies. And the thing is, to do a dynamic body, it's a real hard thing. So again, if you've got a simplified body, which is normally where I would start from, then you bring that in and then you adjust all the forms on that already. And that kind of gives you a leg up to the thing. It's the dynamism of the pose then becomes the thing, rather than I'm making a body. And again, if you were doing it in ZBrush, you would load in a base mesh and then you would pose the base mesh and then you would put all the sculpting into that. So if you're putting if the main aim of your sculpt today is to make nice dynamic muscles, well, why waste your time making the crappy muscles that you need to make in the base mesh to start with, when you could be concentrating on that one piece, which is, the dynamism of the sculpt.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, base mesh is the way forward.
Yeah, I think makes perfect sense.
Yeah, save your time, save your energy, put your energy into the bits that you're wanting to concentrate on now. So I'm concentrating on these dynamic bodies because Theis threw down the gauntlet. Well, no, I appreciate everything that he's doing, and the man's magnificent. So why would I deny him that,
I was just trying to. I mean, the whole reason for saying that is basically that I want to see more of what you're doing.
I know,
like the way I see it, and I'm probably guilty of that very much myself. But it's just the level you were able to bring those faces to, and the likeness sculpts you've been doing. To me, it's just so incredible. So I just get curious. So I want to see what else you got. What can you do other than that? Because of course, there's improvement every time you do it, but I just want to see more. But it's also because I'm super biased. So I really like dynamic sculpts and dynamic poses and stuff like that, and I just want to see if what could happen if you tried to tackle something like that, because I haven't seen that from you yet.
No, absolutely. When you asked to see my work the other day as well, I've got some that I've done in ZBrush that I didn't show. There's so much. I've been hiding under a bushel for a long time now. So I've just been working away. I hardly show anything. The only stuff that I show has been this medium stuff in the last 18 months. Before that, I'd never showed my work to anybody, apart from obviously the clients that I was working with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So medium's changed me as a man. It's made me the man I am today.
I see you adding some like the mask now, Theis. Is that because you're getting you're happier with the pose, and now you're done with the pose, or are you just adding a little bit more so that you can then tweak the pose some more, knowing what the face is going to look like?
It's because I think I want to go with this one. So basically what I did was I struggled around with the poses to begin with, and I couldn't really find a solution for it. So instead of just keep on banging my head against that problem, I just introduced a few environment things. And even though, let me just see if I can get to it. Even though I'm going for a collectible style model like this, where the base, it won't be a full environment, but it's more like a small piece of an environment. I needed something to give purpose to the pose, and sort of get me out of that place where I didn't know what to do. So I won't be needing all these buildings, but it was just a way of getting, getting to the next step and sort of informing myself on what to do. So working from this angle and introducing these buildings gave me, like, now he has a purpose. I mean, he's still just hanging out looking cool, but at least to me now I have something where I can focus on this hand, for example, and the tension it will have, the way it will affect the delts up here, because now he's sort of being pulled this way, like the arm is pulling him this way, and that will inform how this part of the chest will move up a bit, whereas the other one slumps down towards the arm. And so it was just a good way to get to the next step. And what I like about it here is that even though I worked at it from this angle to get it working, to get it going, now that when I'm going around the character, and yeah, I have to say that there is a difference to the lens that you guys are seeing from my window and to the lens that I'm seeing from within the headset. But now that I'm going around the character, now there's the pose starts to make sense, and it's creating interesting angles from every direction. Whereas before he was sort of like we talked about it a few days ago, right, Martin? Where sometimes the pose is sort of in between 2 or 3 poses, and it's a weird amalgamation between all 3 of them, and it ends up being very unfocused and looking like, Martin, you described it as he wasn't quite ready when somebody took the photo, something like that.
Yeah, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Caught him doing something he shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, and I think this is far enough. It works enough that I can start to go around the model and go like, okay, so should this hand go like this, maybe, to make it have even more tension, or now I can start to work every piece from different angles. Maybe up here, since he's right now the arm is floating a bit, but the overall sense of the pose is there. So now I can go in and maybe lower the elbow to the part of the building he's grabbed onto, stuff like that. Start to tighten up the pose a bit more, and maybe his fingers can start to do something, but now it's doing something in relation to something, if that makes sense. Is that making sense at all? But
yes,
at least to me it is. Whereas before it was just like he was just doing a claw shape in thin air with his hand, and it was quite unmotivated. Where now maybe I can start to also just like the different parts. Now the fingers can start to do different things, and I can. So it's always that. Now I have step 1 maybe sort of done, and now I can tweak that and then go to step 2. So it's always like going to the next step, and that's also the way I'm going about when I eventually get to doing breaking down the chest into smaller forms and stuff like that. And this is once more a point where I really need to force myself to not jump ahead, because and just for the hands alone, there are so many ways you can do something interesting with the fingers and the hands, and even the curvature of the hand, like this. I mean, the hand is so complicated. It can do so many things, and while it may not be a big focus, of course the head should be probably the main focus. Even the things that you won't necessarily dwell on too much, it will still give help giving an overall feeling of tension and drama in the pose.
We've had a question from Galen Tingle saying, how have your clients felt about the use of VR as opposed to traditional desktop software, and how do they get that involved in the process?
Do you want to take that, Martin, or should I?
It's funny because I work with such a wide range of clients, but most are really quite interested, generally speaking, because it's such an emerging technology. So no, I think for most of them, the funny thing is people who are in the industry already, they're interested because obviously, you've got to stay interested in the actual up and coming, you've got to stay abreast of technology or you fall behind. So they tend to be interested from that point of view. They're interested in seeing what it can do and what it can give them. But people who, I do a lot of, they're not commissions per se, but there are a lot of people who don't really generally deal with this kind of thing a lot, So it doesn't matter. So they don't really know, but obviously from that point of view, they're absolutely amazed, by what can be done. So, I don't think they don't know it's so funny now that traditional digital sculpting is even a thing. I just find that in itself is hilarious because it's only been around for still such a short time. But yeah, the fact is that they don't really know what that involves either. So it's all magic to them. They do tend to be very interested in that. They'll always ask interested questions. But yeah, I think Theis actually has some better stories just about how people treat you when you mention that you're using VR. So I'll let him.
Well, my take on it is like a lot of it has, to most people it has some sort of novelty, or at least it used to have, and I think to some degree it still has. But for me, it's more about obviously for me personally, it's about the fact that I feel very much in control when working in VR, and I'm very style fluid. I can go on in pretty much any kind of visual style because I feel so at home here, and that gives me a lot of confidence when jumping on projects and so on. But for the clients, I feel it's made a lot of difference as well. For example, for the past almost 2 years, I've been working with a Danish game company called Trophy Games, and shout out to those guys. And for some of those projects, we've done the entire concept part in VR, and that's meant that every character, every environment, it's being sent out to every stakeholder in the project as a fully sculpted 3D 360 degrees colored concept, and in the full kind of level of finish that we need for the final asset. And so in broad terms, the only difference between what the stakeholders on the project, the decision makers, what they're basing their decisions on is pretty much, of course, there's a lot of work, technical work to be done afterwards to get it in game and in engine and working properly. But the visual that the stakeholders have to sort of relate to, or it's all there. It brings a lot of value to the process because you don't have a situation where somebody submits a baller illustration for approval and then it gets approved and that, let's say it's a character, then once that gets translated by the 3D artist, now all of a sudden you have a lot of extra steps going back and forth where maybe stakeholders will come back and say like, oh, why, I don't know what it is, but it just all of a sudden the shoulder pad doesn't look sexy anymore and stuff like that. And and you just don't have that issue when your concepts are fully fleshed out in 3D, because the technical artists and everyone further down the pipeline, I mean, it's all there. So basically, there's not it removes so many nasty surprises from the process, and that's just one example. Other examples could be like, for some projects I've worked directly with as a direct link between the director of a project and the animators. So in VR, since it's digital clay and it's so hands-on that you can just push and pull stuff, we could once we had the main characters for the animation done in VR, now all of a sudden we could pose them easily, just like I'm doing here. So what that allowed us to do was to take napkin drawings from the director that just showed like a 3P, like a 3-point hero landing of the character, or whatever it is that he had in his very simple line drawing animatic, or what do you call it? Like his, this sketch for the whole sequence, animation sequence, and then we could just directly post the character in 3D in VR for that and hand that off to the animators. So for every keyframe or key pose in that sequence, they had a 1-to-1 3D approved pose that they could sort of set up their keyframes for, and that it just, once again, it just removes a lot of questions, and it removes a lot of back and forth in the process that would be there if you're playing. It's like that game, where you have like 20 people, and person number 1 tells person number 2 a story, and he has to pass it on to person number 3, and by the end, when you get to person number 20, it's a completely different story. Right?
Yeah. I know that Rosie Summers, she develops VR games and designs environments, and what she does in her team is sketches them out in tilt brush or quill very quickly, and then puts because she's making VR games, so puts the headset in them so they can stand in the sketched version of that environment before any of the details and textures and all the blocking in is done and the refinement. So and you can see how that just must save so much time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I can see that's a great answer to the question. I can see how that bringing more of the team into that workflow speeds up the process no end.
Yeah, I think it's what you were saying, Lee. Just the fact that why would you make 3D assets in 2D if you can make them in 3D? Mm-hmm. It's that simple. It's like if you're given the option and the tools are available that can reach the same level or very close, then it doesn't seem sensible. It's like I still don't understand why that VR demo of Substance Painter just disappeared. That to me, that is an absolute, if that came out in VR, everybody would be in VR. It would be done. It'd be a done deal. Mm-hmm. Because if you can pick up a finished object and paint it exactly as it's going to appear in the medium, the job's done. It's like, why would you do it any other way? I don't see why they're dragging their heels on that, unless it's so poorly performant that they've just went, well, we can't do it yet.
Yeah, it must be. It must be just. Yeah, it must be performance thing. They must be tweaking it.
I mean, it's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, it doesn't make it because it just blew everyone's minds, didn't it? So, what's Adobe Modeler? Because I've someone mentioned it in the chat earlier, and I don't know anything about that. Should we just change the
You're on slippery. It's Theis.
On thin ice.
There are a number of people involved in this chat who are on non-disclosure agreements about Modeler. It's the follow-up to Medium. It's what Adobe have been doing with their time. since they acquired Medium. So it's the future of the Medium ghost, if you like.
Yeah.
I'm not. Maybe ghosts. Maybe ghosts a harsh word. It sounds better than zombie, though. Let's face it. No. So yeah, the carcass of Medium has been picked over, and they're taking all the good bits out and
no, don't say that.
Rebuilding it into a new product that they hope will bring what Medium has given the VR space, and obviously take it then to the next iteration. That's basically what Modeler is. It's where Medium is going to be, and except obviously Medium's still here,
So is the core team still the same team from Medium that came over?
I think overall, I mean, at least for me, I'm a little bit cautious when it comes to talks like this, because I mean, people have been allowed to share some things about it, but it's always a bit tricky to talk live about things that are completely or partially NDA. So maybe it's a bit tricky, but yeah, if someone's watching who's not aware of Modeler, it's the heir to what we're doing here, but at the same time it's probably going to be bigger and better in many ways. But I think, yeah, it's tricky. I wouldn't want to because all of a sudden my mind races, and suddenly you say something that.
Of course, no, I get it. So I could be really cruel now and just put loads of words into your mouth. I'm not going to.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's something that I remember seeing mentioned on Twitter at one point, and I've been meaning to look into it. So obviously we're going to see something. Do you know anything about timescales or as to when that might be publicly available?
No.
Okay.
No,
but I think they are continuously letting more and more people into the beta, right? I think that's safe to say. But again, I mean, let's shift the subject. Not that it's not exciting, but yeah.
Yeah, don't want to put our foot in it.
I've got a question here from Kieran Steels. He's saying, are you guys creating separate layers for each object for texturing later, planning ahead for each small detail to be textures, and would this be better in Blender, for example?
I don't know. I mean, Martin goes, especially for his likeness sculpts and his busts, he goes into such high detail that he's probably doing things pretty differently from me. But in general, I'll keep, just like I told you with the ankling and working on the pose from different angles, and once one major area is looking nice, and then moving on to the next, sort of level of detail. For me, that goes on and on throughout the whole time I'm working on it. So at one point, here's my scene graph. You have 150 layers available to you, and right now I'm already at 131, and wow. I deleted the extra poses I had in here. So no, actually I didn't. So let me just do that. So for me, it becomes very natural, because at some point, once I start doing the anatomy, I'll do stuff like this. I'll divide the primary shape for the delt into smaller pieces and start working on the anatomy like that. And during that process, I'll usually hit the 150 layer limit, especially once I start to add clothes and bits of gear and stuff like that. And then from there on, it's just a fluid exercise of starting to collapse layers and so on. But if he's asking about very small surface detail, like small striations and pores and stuff like that, stuff like this, then for me, I rarely get to that, and if I do, I'll still try and do it in medium, and that's absolutely something that would be more time efficient in many ways in other pieces of software like ZBrush or something. But the reason why I try to keep as much as I can in medium is, yes, creating those surface details in some regards would be way faster in, for example, ZBrush. But then once the problem I have with going with that is that most of my work sees a lot of iteration. My clients need to change things around a lot before we're done. And if once I jump from medium to ZBrush, now I'm adding an extra step to my workflow. And then let's say I've finished this model as much as I would want to in medium, and then I jumped into ZBrush and made all kinds of crazy surface detail with alphas and super high resolution. Now you're into what I call a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A, B, C, D, E, whatever kind of workflow. And once you get to the end of that workflow and the client comes back and says, oh, let's try and change the pose completely, or we want a completely different design on the chest area, for example, or whatever it might be, then for me at least, in that sort of more linear workflow, it would work well for production, doing like final technical preparation and production work. But if I'm in that kind of a workflow and the client comes back with major changes, it just makes me want to throw my monitor out of the window. Where that's where I'll win some of that investment in time back, because I might have spent time detailing it in medium, but now I can just do exactly the same things that I'm doing here. I'm totally free to change up everything, and I can, even if the chest is full of things, I can still cut him in half and repose him and work very fluidly with him. So that's where it makes sense for me. But it depends. I mean, if you're doing a lot of, if you're more technically inclined in your work, then it might not make sense at all.
Cool. Yeah, good question, good answer.
So what was the question again exactly? And then I'll see if I can find an answer from my point of view.
Yeah, it was just sort of saying, are you thinking about texturing in here, separating into layers for each object, so that you can? Are you thinking about the workflow from here to another program like Blender and keeping your layers? I think it's two questions basically. You're keeping these pieces separate for workflow and further software, and then but said. Would it be better to do smaller details in Blender, for example?
Okay. Well, it's that way that if you're moving, it depends on exactly what you want out the end, where you're going with things. I'm working in the dark here because I can't see where Theis is on his sculpt. But obviously, I've watched Theis work before, and he works in a fairly similar manner to me in that. The individual volumes are built on separate layers because you can control them more easily using the move. That's the main reason that things are on separate layers. It's not for any esoteric reason or technical reason down the line. It's just because the move tool is the most powerful tool that Medium has. So keeping things on separate layers allows you to leverage the most powerful tool that you've got. But for a lot of my personal stuff and some professional stuff I've done as well. My personal work, the renders that I do for my personal work, I have done some stuff like that for other people, but it's generally speaking, it's not what I do. But for my personal work, when I get to actually merging layers together, you'll merge them down based on what they're going to be made of in whatever render engine you're going to put them in. So I do group things based on material, simply because when I bring them in, if I've put some vertex paint, or whatever medium happens to call it, poly paint and ZBrush vertex paint, I'll put vertex paint on, and it's the only thing that I put on my sculpts when they're personal sculpts and I want to render them, because it's super quick in medium, and I can throw them into, I use Marmoset rather than Blender, just because I used it a while ago and I find it really fast. So all of the things, if the layer has a material on it and it's the same material as elsewhere in the sculpt, then I will just merge those layers down by material, so that when and make sure that I save them all as their own name, so as I can chase them through the hierarchy of whatever I'm putting them into. And then when I just take them in there, I just grab the materials and just throw them on. I just have a set of like 5 or 6 materials that I have sitting there, which are very basic. You know, it's like matte, shiny with subsurface, matte with subsurface, and metals, shiny metal, matte metal, you know, like brushed metal and glass. That's it. I have those just sitting there waiting, and I'll just throw them on and expose the vertex paint to whatever needs to be shown, so that you get the colour. And then I'll just wiggle a bit with the general roughness of things and throw some ray tracing on it, and that's it. I don't do anything else to them. That's my personal work. If I'm making it for professional work, then none of that matters, because when you take it, I mean, no, that's not strictly true. In some ways, you'll make it by material if it's going to be rendered, or if it's going to be textured in something like Substance Painter. You'll need to retopologize it, but if you've already split it, your layers coming out by material, then you can make like a clown pass, where you put like really obscene colors on each of the mats, and then when you bring them in into Substance Painter, you can expose those colors to the layer stack, and you can just then throw things onto those individual materials based on your layers obscene color from the other ones, and that works really well. Obviously, you'll need your low-res model to be made separately, or re-resed in whatever you're putting it through, you know, ZBrush or Blender. So, I mean, it's one of those answers where yes and no. Do you layer things by material? Yes and no. It depends on what it's coming out the end for.
Yeah.
Mostly all of these layers are exposed in medium just to keep control over the forms. There's no other reason. Or rather, it's not that there's no other reason, but that's the best reason. That's why everything's kept separate, so that you can individually control the volume. Let's call it sculpting, for want of a... No, that is the actual word. Yeah, let's call it sculpting.
Nice, thank you. So just so you guys know, it's 20 to 12 now.
Yeah.
So I think we said 9:30 to 11:30, didn't we? So we might want to wrap up. Excuse me. So so it's a real shame we couldn't see Martin's. I don't know if we can just try and maybe refresh his feed and see what you've got there, or then we can see what game he's been playing in the background. Or whether that's worth attempting or not, I don't know.
Yeah, let's try it. Out what that problem is. I think I'll just give a few words about where I'm at right now. So before we go into that, so at this point, now I pretty much have the post down, and now instead of bringing in my Ecochet reference and going way into the anatomy at this point. By the way, I think this is a pretty cool free resource. Raphael Grassetti, the art director at Sony Santa Monica Studio, put this out on his Gumroad. It's a 3D printable kit, and I have it in physical form in my on my desk, and I bring it in here as well. I think it's pretty cool that you have like a very surface oriented side, and then you have a sort of a mixed side where you have tendons and bones. So At least I found that it helps me a lot. But I would use that in combination with some of the photos I showed you earlier of different people and seeing the anatomy in a post stage to see like tension areas and stuff like that. But before I go into all of that, I don't, I'm using my references as references and as guides, but I don't let them guide where I'm going with the piece. So before I get into all of that, what I'm doing here is, for example, the leg here, I'm stylizing the primary shape of the leg to add sort of the rhythm and the feel that I want for it, just like you see like here on the leg here. So I'm introducing that sort of rhythm to the shapes before starting the real anatomy work. So this will sort of inform the detailing of the anatomy instead of having details of anatomy sort of dictate the silhouette and shape, if that makes sense. So I really want to stylize the forms to the level I want them at before leaving this stage. So I'll probably do that to every part of the model, and I'll add lights from different directions, just to be able to see, like, let's do a very harsh one here. So if I want to introduce harsh lines like this, I'm just adjusting the lights to make sure that I have them. And for that, the move tool is with a 100% strength and 0% inner radius. It's really good because you can sort of skim along the lines and use it as a polish tool as well. So yeah, that would be my next thing, and after that I'll go in and place down landmarks like the mask here all over him to sort of plan out where I'm going with details on the suit. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
So the plan here is to do another episode, and you might do a bit of sort of tweak in between, do you think, and then move on to the next stage? Do you think you've got a more sort of noodling back and forth to do before that you want to start another stream, or will you stop completely and we'll try again, or you got a plan for that?
Let's see. I think we'll just talk about that and find out what makes sense for the stream and so on. But definitely, if I do any work between now and the next stream, then just like the guys in Stylus League, I'll record what I'm doing, or at least major landmarks of it, and either do a video time lapse or an image time lapse, so people can see sort of the different stages I go through.
Cool.
All right, I'll jump out of the headset and we can try and bring on Martin.
I could load anything in, couldn't I? I'll quickly load something impressive in the meantime.
Yeah, you're going to just finish the piece. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I made earlier.
Sticky back plastic.
All right. Martin, can you...
Thanks for sticking with us, everyone. We got 15 people, 17 people. They stuck with us throughout the teething problems. We appreciate that.
So cool.
Yeah, I mean, very appreciated.
I mean, we'll learn, right? That's what we do.
Yeah, exactly.
Martin, can you reactivate screen sharing?
Yeah, just give me a moment.
Perfect timing for a ringtone to come in.
I know, always the way, isn't it?
It's right. Martin's time to go to sleep song.
Yeah, that's it was his lullaby. He's dropping off now.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, so sorry, we want a name in the Skype window. Hold on.
I don't know why your feed would have been frozen like that. It's the ice cream. It's the ice cream van coming round. Yeah,
that's exactly what
it's that creepy midnight ice cream.
By the way, if there's anyone watching here who's been facepalming the whole time about our level of stream capabilities, then by all means, if you have any pointers or tips, feel free to share them in the comments, because I obviously need help in the hosting.
Well, I think it's just we need. Yeah, I think I watched someone do a really nice thing with a couple of screens being shared, and I don't think it was Skype. I think we've just got to find out what software was used. I think it must have been that rather than anything else, because that was our problem in the beginning. And yeah, we had like 2 calls on to try and get everybody in. That's why we got the echo. But just trying out a different program is probably going to solve everything, I think.
Martin, can you share your Medium?
Yeah, I'm trying. Is it not sharing? As I'm sharing it in the Skype, so it should be available in the Skype window. No?
Yeah, we're using OBS. This is OBS, isn't it? It's coming through OBS, but the screens are coming in from Skype, Kieran. So I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
I think that's where the feeds weren't coming into OBS properly from Skype separately.
So can you see my screen at all, or
StreamYard? Okay, StreamYard. Thanks, Claire. I've heard of that one. Yes, I've heard. I've seen this. Seen that logo. I'll have to look at that. Yeah, and Zoom I've had work before as well, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. Nice. Kevin was in Tilt Brush while he was listening, and Keith was in ZBrush. You can't stop us from working. Oh, hi Marizo, thanks for joining us. People from all different circles here.
I'm not getting anything from your screen, Martin.
No, I'm at the moment. It's now not listing my Medium stream at all in Skype. Hold on. Oh, right, there we go. Was that coming through?
Yes, it's coming through Skype.
Look at this angry little man.
Okay, well, it's kind of blocked off, actually. I can see.
Oh. What's the block by?
I don't know. There's a grey window in front of it.
Oh, I think that's actually the main.
Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Yeah, I can see it. And it looks like we're getting there.
Angry little man. He's not exactly posed the best, but you know, he's an amalgam of these fellows here and some really poor legs.
Yeah, you made loads of progress.
And I've got a little bit of back on there as well, but again, not much. Most of this is exactly what Theis said. It's duplicates. So you're taking one and you're either, like here, especially in the forearm, and they're still a bit all wonky. But basically that one, and that one, they're all the exact same. I just put one in and then in fact, well, we could do it here. Let's delete that one. So I just duplicate that one and then use the move tool that's probably on elastic. Just grab it and pull it up and then arrange it where it needs to go, like anatomically.
It's so satisfying, isn't it? So responsive.
It's just brilliant. So, and that's, for an initial block-in, really, you don't really need much more than that. It's sitting in the space, and then you can refine it further. Like Theis says, if you've got the pose there already, and I don't think this is, but if you've got the pose there already, then this is just a layer on top, and if it's not quite right, then you can remove it or hide it and say, oh, why is that not working, And just, these are all, I brought most of these were made initially just from the cone. So literally just placing a cone like that. In fact, it's still the clay. So like if I hide that one, it's just clay. Oh, I've hidden the layer I was putting on. There. It's literally just a cone. There we go. It's about half the size of the upper arm bone for the deltoid. Just place that in and just use the move to just place it where it needs to be.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a full skeleton underneath?
Let's go down to where the skeleton is. It's not a full skeleton. It's basically ribs, right? So I'll hide everything else. It's ribs with the little notch for where the clavicles are going to go. Hi guys.
Hey, little Batman ghost.
Yeah, and then the bones are just very simplified bones. So if we move these out of the way, you can see. Let's get to the hips. So the hips are like that, and well, obviously you can see what the skull's like. It's just a very simplified. It's just the very basics, the depth, the width, and a jaw. The hands were hands that have, now normally I have a little pair of modular hands, which are actually the same hands. This is the merged version for some reason, I'm not sure why. And they actually have all the pieces separate, so you can just grab them and pose them as a separate hand, which you can load in as a separate sculpt itself, just bring it into the scene and place it. And obviously, like we were saying about base meshes, it just means you can make one half-decent hand and then use it again and again if it needs to be bulkier.
So you imported that and it came in as like a folder of pieces, of layers.
Yes, it comes
self-contained.
In fact, you can see that this one's in a hierarchy just now, so the fingers are separate. Oh, so if you move the hand, then the fingers move along. But yeah, the full hand has all the individual phalanges of the fingers as well. It's not just one block, like these are just a single block, and I've just bent them using the move tool as a square, just because it's fun. Just like that, and just bent them. But that's how far I got. I had a bit of fun there,
Nice,
especially as there was literally no pressure because no one was watching.
Well, like in the last 3 minutes, we got both of your pieces on screen.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to figure out what changed at what point, but it's working fine now. I can see both at once. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. At least you were able to answer questions, and it was good enough. Definitely, just a couple of.
We got started. That's important.
Yeah,
as well.
got two pieces. That's it.
I mean, definitely, and people are very much welcome to comment on the video if there's anything they want to see done different in the next one, other than having things work, but also if how much of the in-between work would people like to see, and would they, some streams they just go real time all the way, where you end up with like 20 hours, 30 hours of work in real time. And I think maybe not a lot of people would want to spend their time that way, but people should be very welcome to chip in with what they would like to see and how they would like to follow the project. Yeah. So
yeah, definitely give us some feedback if you can, guys, and if any kind of comments would be great. It'd be good to know.
I mean, like I said, Theis, I mean, I'm happy to come on and sculpt live. It's that way that if we're doing this already, then I'm perfectly happy to just expose the screen to the wider humanity and allow them to bore themselves watching me. Because I'm going to be doing it anyway.
And we could do that. We could also have even more casual streams where we don't necessarily talk a lot about techniques and stuff, and just try to get stuff stuff done, and then do like a catch-up stream where we go through the different stages. We could save out our scenes at different stages and go through that. That might be better in some ways, but
yeah, I can see why you
because at least for me, like as you can see, it's some of the work is very slow paced and very deliberate and very trying different small things out and before moving on. So yeah, maybe that would make sense. But Martin and Lee, thank you so much for indulging me in this. I think it's basically just I'd like to see more people do stuff like this, and just trying to put out what I would like to see more of. really.
It's nice to hang out. It's nice to learn from you as well. We've got a couple of people saying thank you so much. Great stream. Thanks for all the time you gave. Look forward to the next one. It's great to have the opportunity to ask questions. So thanks again. That was Kieran. And then Dan says, good to watch and to hear about your workflow, guys. Claire says it's fun. Yeah, so we're getting, that's nice. I appreciate you showing you. Obviously, for us, we're working in a void if we don't see these comments. So it makes a big difference. So thanks for that.
All right. Well, have a good night, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you later, guys.